what this program initially was SURF, right? Community Economic Resilience Fund, which had more of an economic and community development approach. Are you going to share your screen, Jesse, to share the slides?
Yeah, I can pull them up. Sorry for that.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Do you have them up or do you want me to go retrieve them?
I'll pull them up. Let me put them in presenter mode. I'll share screen, everyone. Let me know if you can't see it. That should be the first slide.
Yep, it's up.
Okay, perfect. 1 second. Sorry, we all had to pivot really quickly, everyone. Thanks for being patient. Okay, so this is the job creating project slide, which you all remember I've been emailing you about for like the past week and a half, 2 weeks. The primary goal here was increasing good paying jobs and or business development and growth in the industries of tourism and outdoor recreation, medtech, high-tech hardware, semiconductors and microelectronics, advanced manufacturing, precision manufacturing, healthcare, childcare, education, and construction. Projects should also be focused on the creation, development, or support of business and economic activity. And then stronger projects also demonstrate a positive impact on the climate. Oh, and I'll go back real quick. This was $3.6 million. Job creating, 3.6. And then we have community enhancing projects with $1 million available for funding. They address any topics in the regional plan part 2 and our industries not mentioned in the job creating section, which were the industries I just mentioned in the previous slide, and or could not meet the definition of a good paying job or income. Although not exhaustive, these would be topics such as housing, healthcare access, green technologies, childcare access, and then climate adaptation. For projects that are not primarily climate focused, stronger projects demonstrate a positive impact on the climate, and then the collaborative decides how this funding gets spent. So I'll now move on to the next item with round 2 of community enhancing projects. So for community enhancing projects, we received a total of 37 applications. You all had access to scoring the applications within the GrantWeb portal. The funding available is $1 million, and they requested that amount, a little bit over $8 million, almost 8.5. Let me go to the next slide. So the pool of projects will be released today during this meeting. You'll select no more than 3 projects or your ballot will become invalid. And this is how you'll rank them. It'll be first place 5 points, second place 3 points, and third place 1 point. It's very similar to round 1 and how we launched the poll and how you all voted. The only thing that's different is in round 1, you all moved your projects around within the voting poll, with your top 3 moving them all the way to the top of your poll. This time around, you'll have to use the text box. So you all have access to the project name within the application. So you'll enter the project name in the text box, and I'll walk you all through that right now. Your first entry is your first place. Your second entry will be your second place. And you cannot vote for a project that you or your org is directly involved in, or your entire ballot becomes invalid. The poll will close firmly at 5 p.m. next week, Tuesday, July 22nd. And if needed, a follow-up poll will be released on Wednesday, July 23rd. And that will close at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Friday, July 25th. And we will fund all eligible expenses starting with the highest vote getter and then the next highest project, etc., until 1 million is exhausted, which is pretty similar process from round one. So there are some proposals in here where staff feels there are parts that are not pre-development eligible. So when they get to the contracting process, they may not be able to fund the project to the requested amount, because remember, one of the requirements not set by us, but by the state, is they have to be pre-development activities. So when that happens, all remaining funds will then be carried over to the next highest scoring project, and so on and so forth until all million is exhausted. Since there was an optional meeting on Friday that I hosted where staff went over the process, we won't use this time to answer those types of questions, but we do want to take the next 20 minutes or so for you as a collaborative to have dialogue on projects you liked and the reason why you liked them. And if you have process questions, just use the chat functions and Jesse and I will respond through there. And if you have further questions or feel like your questions are not thoroughly answered today, remember we only have an hour. Just email me directly and I'll make sure that I get back to you within the next few days. I'll definitely prioritize this as the poll does close Tuesday. Okay, do we have any comments? I'll stop screen share, Jesse, so that I'm able to see the chat.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. If you have any questions, please add them to the chat.
This is it. This is it.
It's just really we'll jump back in here. So yeah, again, giving you a space to discuss what you reviewed. If you looked at the applications, we want to always make sure that there's space for conversation amongst the collaborative on what you value, what you saw were strong projects. So we want to provide that space until we get in the next portion of the agenda. As Maria said, there's questions about the voting, how things happen, like let's direct that to the chat. We had an optional call last week to try to go over those things to make this more about you as a collaborative talking amongst each other about, what were important projects that you saw and why.
Yeah, and I see Linda addressed Josefa's question in the chat. Additionally, when we were going to launch round 2, I did send you all a draft of what the Jobs First packet was going to look like, what the applicants were going to see. No one made a request to change the amounts. It would have been really hard to change the community enhancing projects funding amount, because the way that the state is moving now, they're definitely moving towards good paying jobs, job creating sort of projects. But obviously, Jesse, Dr. Walrod, and I, and in general, OCBC staff talked, and we thought that it'd be important to still honor the work of the collaborative and allow you all to still fund community enhancing projects. But there's 13 regions, and most regions aren't doing that. Most of the projects that they're funding are based off what the state is requesting, which is job creating, good paying sort of projects. I see Elva has her hand up.
Hi, I don't know, Maria, I think that you and Jesse were asking for input on the job creating ones. Is that correct?
It's the community enhancing projects. We are going to ask about feedback for job creating as well. That'll be later in the agenda.
Oh, okay. So on the community enhancing, I thought that the wildfire response training, given what we're experiencing here in California, was really important. So that was one that I definitely wanted to advocate for. And then also the Anaheim Unified High School District career pathways really stood out to me, as one is getting, early education in students understanding where they wanted to head. So those are a couple that I had comments on.
Thank you for sharing those comments.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else have any other comments or questions? I know I've been sending a lot of emails, but those have all been really good resources for all of you to prepare for today's meeting. So I hope you all had time to review all of those materials. Okay, I see a comment in the chat.
One comment that I have after looking at the material is there any consideration in a first round of review to suggesting that some of these projects merge? Because there is some overlapping, there really is some overlapping intent here on several of them that are involved in, for example, on the AI and healthcare training. Is there anything done there to connect these two organizations or three organizations and suggest that they work together on a project to move it forward?
Linda, I mean, what we did with round one was if there was a project that was awarded and there were other projects, either job creating or community enhancing, that were similar, that we then shared that with the awardee to think about what appetite they have, you know, to try to merge those things. So not before submission, but after, if one of those gets awarded, we will communicate and share information that there were some similar projects here that might amplify your work. Any others have thoughts on the community enhancing and what you saw for your colleagues, you know, before at some point we open the poll and your colleagues are able to vote?
I want to show support and add on to Elva's point as well, that I think the Wi-Fi training program is also a very good one, and I hope everybody votes for it. I think Wi-Fi is going to be one of the most pressing challenges in California in the upcoming year, especially considering the drought and changes in the climate we are going to experience due to climate change. So yeah, just want to add on to Elva's point for that.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
And thank you, and welcome to the meeting, Long.
Thank you.
Any other comments before I move on to showing you all what the poll looks like? We still have more time.
Okay,
You
seeing
can
none.
also add to the chat. Yeah.
Marie, why don't you go ahead and do that? And then again, if since we have this until 9:30, we can wait that long if people have more comments after, but might as well use it now to show them what the survey looks like.
Okay, so the poll looks very similar to round one. It's pretty much the same. You can only submit one vote per org. I know that all of you have access to the grant web portal and are able to score. Some of you for your org, there's maybe 4 different representatives, 5 different representatives. That's okay. I gave you all access to scoring your project so you could break it up as a team. But you still can only submit one vote. And then again, enter your top 3 projects with your highest scored project in first place, your second in second place, and then your third will be in third place. It'll be 5 points for first place, 3 points for second place, and 1 point for third place. And then you'll utilize the project name to vote by entering in the text box. And you can't vote for a project that you or your org is directly involved in, or then your whole ballot becomes invalid. The poll will close at 5 p.m. next Tuesday, July 22nd. So you'll enter your full name here, first and last name, your org, or you can type in community resident or your name again. Your first project will go here. So say it's the wildfire project, pull it from the grant web portal, copy paste the project name. And then your second place, your third place, and then you just hit submit. And then on the back end, I will just analyze and pull all the data, and it'll be the same thing as, and you'll see Jesse and I have kind of tested it out, and we voted for ourselves for OCBC just to test it out. And that's it. It's very easy and straightforward. You all in the recap email will have access to the link again, but in a few minutes, I'll ask for a motion first and second, and then I will go ahead and post the link in the chat and you can all start voting, but don't feel rushed because you have until Tuesday. So you still have over the weekend. And then this way you can think of questions, you can email them to me or call me, and then I can answer or address your questions. I'll stop share so I can see the chat. Do we have any questions regarding the poll or anything related to the community enhancing projects? I see Anna. Oh, it's okay. Anna, it's okay. I know it's a lot. It's 37 project applications. So just maybe break it up like an hour at a time or 2 hours at a time, so you don't feel overwhelmed.
Any questions then about, obviously how you feel about the projects, poll? If there are process questions, we have 10 more minutes to cover this before we move on to the next part of the agenda. At the very end, we'll ask for a motion a second to launch the poll. Anything from the group?
Also remember last week, Friday on the 11th, right after the meeting within like 2 hours, I sent you all an email, and this was a recap email regarding the scoring process. So I encourage you to take a look at the recording because it walks you through how to score, and it only takes a few minutes. And then that way you're not feeling confused or stressed out.
It was very helpful, Maria.
I'm glad. Thank you, Linda.
Any other questions or comments? If not, all right. Then is there a motion to open the poll?
If you could come off mute and just say, I move to open the poll, and then I'll need a second.
I move to open the poll.
Okay,
And
was
Kathy
that
can
you,
be a-
Denise?
Yeah, John
Yes.
Neese. Thank you, John Neese.
Okay,
Kathy can be a second.
okay, awesome. Well, I'll copy paste the link down. I'll drop it in the chat. Let me know if you don't have access to it. I would say click on the link and then let me know if it's not working for you. Jesse, can you try the link just in case, please?
Yeah, one moment. Yep, opens for me. It's like you can type in each box.
Opens for me.
Yes, thank you all for confirming. All right. Maria, can you pull the slides back up?
Mhm.
We'll go into part 2.
And then if you could monitor the chat, Jesse, just in case so I don't miss anything.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sharing screen soon. Hold on.
Fine. So let's move into the job creating them project awardee. So, staff deliberated and reviewed. Sorry, I think the next slide probably gives you the breakdown of the numbers. You want to go to the next slide? 46. So a little bit more on the job creating side than community enhancement. We have 3.6 available, but over 15 million was requested. So a little between 4 and 5 times the amount that we have available. So, staff reviewed this, and this is our recommendation on how to proceed with the $3.6 million in funding.
Yeah, and then just to remind you all too that the job creating projects are selected by OCBC, but for transparency purposes to the collaborative and for an opportunity for all of you to provide input, this is an important process, which is why we're sharing the job creating projects with all of you. So each of you has access to all 46 within the Grant Web portal as well, and you can add comments to the Grant Web portal just for your own review. And then you can pass them over to us in this meeting, or you can email them directly to us.
Yeah, so similar to the poll, like we will not have this list finalized until the end of day Tuesday. So, I mean, you already have a lot on your plate trying to look at the community enhancement. If you had time to look at these and you had feedback, we welcome that. And to Maria's point, transparency. And we do want this to be collaborative, but we wanted to obviously take the lead, put in the work, spend a lot of time reviewing each application and provide recommendations based on a lot of the frameworks that we discussed and deliberated on in previous months. So based on kind of those values and principles, here's what OCBC staff came up with. So we just have a list. If you guys have this deck with you, we will share it after. So Maria, you can go to the next slide. But basically, quick, it's a summary of the projects we want to proceed with, and we kind of gave what our rationale was. So getting a CDFI was actually something, so a community development financial institution, they primarily kind of lend to companies that don't usually get typical financing from most of your typical banks. Having a CDFI or another one, there really aren't very many in Orange County, was something that has actually come up in conversation. So there was a proposal to do just that. And with the Hispanic Chamber, someone who kind of focuses on, obviously the minority businesses here in the county. So what did we like about it? I should probably say at a high level, there were a lot of workforce development projects. Again, I just think it speaks to how robust that ecosystem is. But even the state has kind of nudged everyone to say, like, this is more about economic development. Workforce development is a critical piece that, ties in well. But the more we can focus on, the business itself, and how it can grow and it can be successful. And then when that business grows and is successful, then jobs come with it. So we really try to be a little bit more intentional, more so than even in round one, about where are the services for the business for them to expand and be more successful. So that is one of them. This is not a workforce piece. This is really economic development, helping small businesses get access to capital. And as I mentioned, that was really critical, but also there are a low number of CDFIs. I think maybe people like Josefa might even know what that exact number is. But if you think about how big our market is, we woefully have a low amount of CDFIs compared to other markets of our population size. And so we thought like this was a need. Again, it was brought up in conversations, even anecdotally, before we even got to this project proposal, hence why we wanted to fund it. So go to the next slide. Store one at the city of Anaheim. Again, there is a workforce piece, and that's great, but there is a business and entrepreneurship piece to it. So we wanted to make so back to like that really was a priority for us. So because there was a food entrepreneurship piece, obviously, if you think about Anaheim, and if you've been to this part of Anaheim, it's directly in a disinvested community. In the proposal, they talked about how intentional they were going to be around disinvested communities being the ones accessing this. And if you think about all the things that are happening, whether it's Disneyland Forward or OC Vibe, how much of a kind of a food demand there's going to be kind of in that city and the surrounding cities also show that there was a clear need for this. As I mentioned, a lot of it is kind of meeting the community where they are, not only physically, but how they were going to be intentional in ensuring that disinvested community members were going to be the ones who were going to be receiving the services here. And I think one thing that was important, although on one hand, we like to fund things because we want to give it a chance when it comes to these catalyst dollars. But at the same time, this is a much bigger project than what we're going to be able to fund them. And they've already received other funding sources, which is to say, once this funding is over, it's a very small chance that this thing packs up and is gone and disappears. So we wanted to make sure that we were kind of contributing to this to kind of help get it over the finish line. And so we thought there was like dollars well spent in that regard. Next slide. In-home childcare and training, childcare is a priority sector. There was a childcare one previously. There was a childcare project previously that we funded. It was also primarily it was a concept phase. So as we talked about, there was like a concept phase, if you look at the NOFO, where it's like usually it's around $50,000, saying we want to try to be able to plan this out a little bit better. Acceleration phase is more we're really trying to put in the work. And then last mile is help us get to implementation ready. If not, maybe with this money, we can even launch a pilot. So kind of a pre-phased implementation. So because we had the different phases, I think we wanted to honor that a little bit. This was one of those concept phase ones. Because it's hard to compare if you want to say what someone can do in a concept phase with $50,000 versus what someone can do with $500,000. So by putting them kind of in these buckets, it allowed us to do more apples to apples comparisons and to think about the impact. And then we also, as we mentioned in round 1 too, with this one, childcare is a workforce enabler. So not only is it going to be helping people start their businesses as in-home childcare, but also if you think about all the people then who can bring their children there who couldn't find childcare, now they are now opened up to enter the workforce. So childcare is always kind of a workforce enabler or multiplier. And so we've always been really strong about childcare related projects. Next slide. Workforce innovation and neurodiversity. This is where, again, there was a balance of this was more workforce oriented. But what stood out was when this was the only project in the 2 rounds that really focused on neurodivergent individuals and the differently abled. And when we think about disinvested communities, yes, there's census tracts and income levels, but you can imagine kind of this community or being someone from this community, a lot of the barriers they face. So that's what stood out to us with the population they were trying to serve. And through the kind of consortium of people who were involved in them, they already had strong relationships with major healthcare employers. There was already a few of these kind of internships were already happening. So it wasn't just part of this work was not, well, we're going to go meet with healthcare employers and hopefully they're going to like this project. There was already at least a little bit of success. And so we wanted to make sure that we can kind of bring that together. So that's what stood out here. It was a workforce one, but I think given that there was strong already employer engagement and a partnership and the targeted population, we thought that this was a very strong project. Permit fee waiver with the city of Anaheim. So if you kind of looked here, they look at obviously when a business has to get going, many times there are fees associated with it, which could be a barrier. And when businesses are deciding where to go, these are costs that they have to decide. So what we liked about this one is one, the city of Anaheim, which had the second most amount of disinvested community census tracts of all the cities in Orange County. First was Santa Ana. This was another concept phase one. So again, $50,000 to see like, is this even possible, to see if we could bring businesses to Anaheim. And in a part of Anaheim called the Anaheim Canyon, where those were disinvested census tracts. It is as I mentioned, I mean, now I'm kind of repeating myself a lot, but this is clear direct support for businesses. Right? The businesses need this. This is where we want to advance these dollars, and is about local government attracting businesses into the region, which is a project we really haven't seen yet in the first 2 rounds. So that's a way to kind of like allow kind of just private sector dollars to come in order to kind of to build up a more robust community in that part of Anaheim. HealthWorks OC, so this was a workforce development one. Again, not all of them could be economic development specific, but this was the county workforce board really thinking about systems change and holistic workforce gaps, and not, although I think a lot of the workforce nonprofits that we have, it's great work because, employers need talent. We have to train the talent, but there can be things at a more macro level that need to be discussed to pull in not just our workforce-based nonprofits, but our community colleges, maybe our 4-years, our K through 12s, kind of all the players in the workforce ecosystem around healthcare, because it is one of our strongest clusters with a lot of good paying jobs. So why this was different than your more typical, direct services, I'd say workforce. What we liked about it was its systems change. It's also community-wide, which would cover a little bit of South County, which is great. And then given the high propensity of healthcare sector jobs, and especially where the conversation would be around, we thought that the impact could be tremendous, if we can kind of get this right with this project. So OC MITA is from a local union from the building and trades. So this was one, is that they would do some kind of analysis to try to reduce analysis and some assessments for businesses to be able to reduce their emissions. So there was a strong climate component with this, which is something we didn't want to walk away from, nor should we, when it comes to the industry cluster development and job creating aspect of this. And then there was also a workforce development piece. So again, what kind of stood out was the workforce development piece is important, but the fact that they were trying to deliver services directly for businesses and in a way that had a climate impact, which was wonderful. And then there's also kind of a union aligned workforce training, which if you saw in the NOFO were kind of like bonus points. And so this is directly from a union, it's union aligned. And so we thought that helped amplify the quality of the job, given that it's wages, but unions also have great benefits, retirement, what have you. And then it said long-term advancement, the pathways, which what unions are very much involved in. So this was a dual workforce, but also business support. And again, having the kind of the labor thread was a bonus points in the NOFO. And that really just came down from the state, but we thought it was right to adopt it. Next slide. Licensed vocational nursing. So they wanted to kind of create a kind of a pathway to go from a certified nursing assistant to a licensed vocational nurse. The wages kind of get up into the high $30 per hour when you can kind of get to an LVN. And so, it is at Santa Ana School of Continuing Education. So we know it's kind of centered in a disinvested community. And so what did we like about this? One, it really is kind of the first of its kind in Orange County. Maybe some of these things are private institutions that do cost a few thousands of dollars for people to become an LVN. So no other program is where it would actually be free to try to get someone from a CNA to LVN. So first of its kind is interesting to try to fund. And if they can get it done, that we kind of maybe can set a model or a precedent there. We have had conversations with the Hospital Association of Southern California. OCBC generally has those relationships, but also they were very helpful in the development of the healthcare activation plans that all of you saw. And they, even before we finished the activation plan, noted to us that there's a serious shortage amongst all of their members, which are a lot of the major hospitals in Orange County, of this LVN shortage. And when we looked at the budget, that stood out was, yes, this is at a school, but about half their proposal is in supplies to kind of like have the physical classroom or space to be able to do the training and not just staffing, admin. So we really think these are more meaningful dollars spent than just sustaining something that you could argue, a community college should have the funds to already do. And so that was the fully funded. There are a list of kind of partially funded ones. We felt that they were all kind of very close in nature. And so because we had some funding left over, we decided this is how we wanted to kind of split up the funds to be able to make sure that all of these projects received some funding. I mean, most of it is ample. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm pretty certain other than this one, all of them got funded more than half. So it's not like we're throwing them a bone here. It's still going to be significant for them to move their projects along. But just to differentiate for transparency for all of you, like these are not fully funded in order for us to make sure we're within our $3.6 million budget. So this was a project from round one. They reapplied, again, making kind of Little Saigon a little bit, I mean, more as if you were kind of in Vietnam. And so that was the point of the city's working on a business improvement district for that. Again, it was funded in round one. As you see in the title, it's multi-city. So it's City of Garden Grove, Santa Ana, and Fountain Valley. So in some way, it's a small little region. So we like the collaboration from a multi-city perspective. And really, it's an opportunity to create long-lasting impact by creating a sense of place. So if you think about different Chinatowns in different parts of the country or different Little Italies, you kind of know you're there when you're there. And so I think this is what these cities are trying to do, is that to kind of create a better sense of place. So there's just a lot more tourism and a lot more tourism other than kind of the big players in Orange County to come to a place and that's really unique. And I think this is our opportunity, because we have such a high Vietnamese population, to really create a unique asset here in Orange County that you really can't find, really, at least in California. So next slide. So Westminster had a separate proposal, and so I think because they applied for this one, it's in kind of Linda, kind of to your point, right? We have a proposal over here that's very similar. This one is close to identical, very close. The city of Westminster kind of has its own plans for development of Little Saigon, and for the fact that like they have the largest portion and the kind of the original Little Saigon when it was, I think 40 years ago when it was formally designated. It's definitely grown in the other cities, but since they were doing this, it only made sense that we kind of complemented the funding from the city of Garden Grove with the city of Westminster. So it kind of, again, connects with the neighboring cities. Sorry, that multi-city is a typo. And again, creates for that long-lasting impact, creating a sense of place. So if we're funding 3 other cities to do this work, I think it made sense for us to also fund Westminster's in order to kind of bring everything together. So culinary arts at the School of Santa Ana. They've talked about incredible demand here. I think we've talked about culinary arts is probably booming. If we think about, a lot of the conversations about where are disinvested communities, what professions are they in? And so how do we turn them into entrepreneurs? How do we make them, safer, better paying, more reliable jobs? That's kind of some of the work that's kind of being done here. So they wanted to establish a kind of a culinary kitchen. There is a small business training component, so it wasn't just workforce. So that elevated this project above other typical workforce projects. The demand, as they said, has been incredible kind of since from COVID to pre-COVID, to where I think it started out with like maybe 25 and now they're close to 500 in just 4 or 5 years time. So it shows demand in that community or in those communities. And a big part of their budget was focused on the construction of the culinary kitchen and not, again, instructor staff time, admin time, but really actually building the thing that will be something we could all say, like, this money contributed to the development of this culinary kitchen where all these people are now receiving either business training or workforce training. Next slide. This other culinary arts one coming out of the community, it says Coast Community College District, but it is in partnership with Cypress and Saddleback College. So there's multi-community colleges who are going to be benefiting here. And so this is probably a more traditional workforce development project, but what I will note is that in the proposal, there's employer engagement through the National and California Restaurant Association. So again, if you're doing a workforce development project, show us employer engagement, which they did. And because it's a multi-community college partnership, it's more of a regional impact. So it really is Cypress to the north and Saddleback to the south. And it wasn't just one community college for the benefit of the people who are just living in that surrounding area, but should have an impact kind of up and down the county. Electric vehicle supply equipment. This is from Goodwill Industries. So they're trying to upskill people into becoming kind of technicians to fix car chargers. So what we liked about this was it's a climate forward workforce training one, just like the OC MITA. Again, we have to try to get things as climate forward as possible. So this was our opportunity to do that as well. It's based on a successful model that already started in Georgia. So they're going to try to bring it to Orange County. Clear equity focus in the way that they describe the project, but also if you think about Goodwill and the people that they serve, we know that those are disinvested communities, and it's a pathway to a very high paying job. So if you look at around $80,000 a year, some of these career pathways and some of these other workforce projects, which are really important to get someone to $65,000, like that's amazing, that's tremendous. But now we're thinking about people getting to $80,000, like that's significant impact for people who could hypothetically probably be in positions that make less than half that. So this ability to kind of train people up into that would have an incredible impact on kind of them and their families. AI-enabled innovation for healthcare and priority sectors. This is from Octane. You know, there were a few AI-specific ones, but really, again, AI had to be harnessed for specific industry clusters, not AI for the sake of AI. And so that's kind of what this did. It's around business and entrepreneurship again. Mostly there is some workforce development, but if you think about Octane, it is around kind of how do we accelerate businesses? How do we make them successful here in Orange County? But there was a target on disinvested communities. So Octane does work on behalf of the entire region, but now they're going to be a little bit more maybe intentional around the disinvested community portion of it. So why we liked it, this was kind of AI was in the bet category for the state. So again, kind of looking at where the state is pushing us and where the state is looking to spend its dollars. How do we kind of draft behind that a little bit? So the state liked AI, but for us, we even disqualified previous applications in this round and previous ones because it was just about AI. So it's like, that's not acceptable to be AI, but harness for healthcare or construction or med tech, whatever industry. It could be hospitality and tourism. And then given Octane's nature, there's high engagement from industry. So it's not, there were some AI projects from a school, but this is where like AI is coming from industry or industries at the table more so than a more academic sense of like how we could have students more protected or more protected in the kind of the AI landscape as it proceeds forward. So next slide. This is a little village, a woman-led social enterprise. She wants to create a co-working space and play cafe to have about 30 co-working families, but hundreds more available kind of to use the cafe. And so what did we like about it? One is a South Orange County specific project. Of all the different factors that could have been included in the framework, when we polled all of you, the collaborative said to make sure that there was some geographic distribution here. And so this was really the only one in round 2 focused on helping those in South Orange County and those disinvested communities in South Orange County. So I think we had to honor that. If you look at it, you know, so many of these other projects, some of them you can infer from the names, but they're really in Santa Ana, Garden Grove, Anaheim, maybe some other pieces, Westminster, but really like those 4 cities dominate the number of projects that are being funded potentially through the job creating. So we wanted to make sure that a South Orange County specific project got funded. Childcare again, we understand how childcare is an enabler. And given that it's a social enterprise and the families they would work with, it was kind of a deep equity focus. And this really is one of those really kind of community-based projects versus, again, we mentioned Octane, and that's going to be tremendous work, but you kind of think about kind of the forward-thinking economic development versus just where are communities, how do we make their quality of life better through economic and workforce development. So I think these are honoring, I think, what a lot of other people on the collaborative like to do in their form of economic development. That's what we thought this was our opportunity to do as well. So with that, are there any kind of questions or discussions around the selections?
I've been monitoring the chat. There's nothing yet as it relates to the projects. There's been more like one-on-one messages with questions I already answered, also not related to the projects. But I did see a lot of thumbs up. So if anybody wants to come off mute just to share which projects you were, supportive of or feedback that you have, I'll stop share.
Yeah, just open it up for people. Yes, Anna.
Hi, good morning. Yeah, I was really impressed. There are a lot of great projects that I feel are addressing a lot of what not only like the priority areas, but also specific things that were named in the community engagement portion of this project as well. Like, and really great ideas to see cities getting involved into. Like I saw the permitting, the piloting of reducing permits for businesses from Anaheim. That's exciting. And then the strategies around play space, like Little Saigon, that's super exciting too, and childcare. So just big kudos on a lot of the things that are sounding very aligned and then focused on disinvested communities. I think I have some questions about some of the repeat folks, some of the bigger companies that are getting multiple awards, and just want to make sure that we also have just measures and standards of good employers, and labor wise, and any not that I know of any, but I just want to make sure that there's also, especially for companies that have a lot of access already, that they're that they're aligned in their own standards as well.
Yeah. So yeah, Anna, let us know what you're thinking there, and then we can, because obviously you can read the proposals as well. We just kind of gave a summary, but whatever feedback you have on the projects, we're happy to take them and then to kind of discuss them with the project awardee.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other feedback? Any other hands up? I don't see anything else in the chat regarding job creating projects. I see some good feedback too, though, from Christina. And then I think Long had to step off the meeting. He has another meeting.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see, is there
Oh,
another-
Yosefa?
Yeah, I was just as you were going through those, I was curious to hear who's behind them, because in some of those I see that there's alignment, right, with our work, and so we want to begin to reach out and see how we might collaborate. So just a comment about seeing, as we see alignment with other projects, it's an opportunity for us to collaborate and support each other. My other comment is, it might be off topic, but and we can take it offline, but we've centered this whole work around disinvested communities. And I may have missed a couple of these sessions over the last month, but it's hard to think about this work without being mindful of what's happening to a significant part of our disinvested communities. And I wonder if there's any commentary, communication with GoBiz as it relates to our, what's happening to a big part of our disinvested communities, and how that may affect or influence how we look at these subsequent rounds of funding with California Jobs First. I know it's a big can, but just wondering if there's any top level commentary from them, interaction with them about the circumstances.
I have not seen anything, at least with GoBiz. I think, and Yosefa, you might know better than me, right there. I think there was a grant focused on kind of immigrant entrepreneurship through the Office of Small Biz, the Small Business Advocate. But I don't know if I can try to pull up the old email, but I haven't really seen anything kind of addressing, kind of immigrant community entrepreneurship.
Jesse?
That level, but more so about, I have not seen anything from GoBiz speaking to the economic impact of kind of what's our kind of our immigrant community.
Jesse?
Yes.
We funded the Orange County Iranian American Chamber of Commerce. I think it was called Tarvan program. That was specifically small business development for immigrants.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's obviously given the the ICE raids that's happened in our communities and what that impact is, right?
Well, because that type of work is transforming as we speak, because the folks that we're serving are not able to go and do business. So no matter what type of entrepreneurship capacity we provide, if they are not in an environment where they can do business, then it jeopardizes that whole thrust, right, of entrepreneurship as a form of income generation and financial stability. It kind of rocks that theory. So obviously this is unprecedented in this kind of work, and so I wanted to bring it up because how do you have this conversation about disinvested communities without bringing it to light? So
Yeah, I'm again happy to follow up. We can always send something to GoBiz to see. I just like I haven't seen anything like press release or anything to that effect from them around this, and I don't know. Obviously the administration is aware, and I think are trying to possibly do some things, but I probably have to just ask them what is the response and what can Orange County do to align based on that response.
and for a lot of organizations that are focused on our immigrant populations, we're having to kind of comb through our digital presence, right, to make sure that we're not putting targets on ourselves. That includes these kind of applications that we're submitting to government agencies, right? So there's a sense of anxiety as it relates to sharing what we do, using the language that we typically do, particularly with government agency. So just lifting that up again, not asking for any solutions. I don't think any of us have any, but it's worth still bringing up.
I would just say like use as the conduit as we are to the state, use us. So I mean like if things do just let us know. I was trying to long answer like I haven't seen anything, but if there are things you want to communicate to them, let us be that conduit.
Jesse, can I ask a broader, sort of overarching question to what Josefa is bringing up? And, and the one thing that I have understood from the beginning is that the projects that looked at in the first stage and the second stage all very specifically have to address the issue of disinvested communities.
Correct. I think Joseph is talking about a specific one, but correct.
And that's what I'm asking. So is Josefa, are you asking that the immigrants be identified specifically or not identified specifically, or that they just be understood as inclusive within the disinvested communities that have been identified in the mapping?
Linda, so a couple ways to answer that. One, we, because of it, we have to create inclusionary language now. So like for us to say that we have a very focus on immigrant populations now puts a target on our back. And so we're trying to be inclusive about how we talk about the work. So as we talk about who we're serving, like we have to scrub it a little bit, right? And that's just what we have to do. So on one end, I'm saying that, but on the other end, I'm saying this is the new environment from where we were when we started.
Understood. Okay, now I'm understanding. Thank you. Yeah, now I just wanted to understand that better. It's the DEI thing, sort of. Yeah. Okay, got it. Thank you.
What I can add, because I was in a meeting a few weeks back with the state, is that conversation came up as to specifically using the term undocumented immigrants on our web pages as the 13 regions. And so something that we discussed was perhaps not using that and then linking it to a specific org that then you can easily, right, look up the location of where they're at in the city or in the county. So it is a conversation. I will say, though, the state has been a little bit more reserved as to what they share, but more so they're facilitating discussions so that the 13 regions across the state, we can all kind of be on the same page and talk about we're nervous for our communities and how do we protect our community. So that I can say has been a discussion as it relates to grants. Not so much like how can they, financially support the communities, that hasn't come up yet.
Thank you.
But the terminology has come up. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments on those? Again, you have, just like with your voting deadline, you have until Tuesday. I'm sure you're more focused on the community enhancing since you're more the judges of that. But if you review them and have comments or feedback, please let us know. If we don't hear anything, we're going to proceed with the list. Yes, Anna.
Yeah, apologies. There is one more round, right?
There will be a round 3.
Okay,
we
I'm
will-
one.
yeah.
Sorry,
So
no, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and that we will notify you of the kind of the details and the parameters of that before we, release a public NOFO. As a collaborative members, you always have the right to look at those things before they get released. So, and anything else? I know you had some.
Just quick
Yeah.
question.
Diana?
So sorry.
If we wanted to receive feedback, should we just schedule a time with either of you, Maria or Jesse or anyone?
I'm sorry, who's speaking? I don't
Oh,
see
sorry,
it.
Diana from
Yeah.
Housekeeper.
Oh, Diana.
Hi.
Yes, receive feedback as it relates to submitting a project.
Yeah, for either job creating or community enhancing.
Yeah, you can schedule a call with me. I'm happy to hop on a call with you.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sorry.
And you
But,
should all have my phone number in the email I sent last week, Friday.
So Anna, back to you.
Sorry, I didn't go off mute again, but yeah, I think it sounds like we'll have more time ahead of round 3, but I was thinking right now in the context of the conversation Josefa's bringing is I wonder if we're to get more specific, if we're thinking of how can we keep as a collaborative, like attention on, are there strategies that are emerging that may not be named explicitly in proposals because putting into writing is a risk at this time, but that are addressing like the real impacts in our region for communities that are being targeted for ICE raids and that aren't being able to work or perform their business. And so yeah, just thinking about the role that we can play in the upcoming round as well and how we can be more attentive and intentional.
Got it. Yes, thank you for the offer. Anyone else with the last few minutes here?
Yeah, I do see a question in the Q&A. So Holly, yeah, there will be feedback. Feel free, as soon as an applicant hears back that they were not selected for a project, email me immediately, please, and I can send you an email with feedback.
And just one small thing to add there is to recognize that if you applied for job creating, you're just naturally you're going to get more robust feedback because community enhancing is up to you, and we don't have insight necessarily on what projects you liked or don't like. What we can do though is tell you if they got a significant amount of votes but didn't get funded or received 0 votes whatsoever. That might be an indication, but it's going to be harder for us because we cannot speak on behalf of the collaborative and all of you on what you thought was stronger equity, stronger impact, a good budget. So I want to level set for some people who, when you go to community enhancing and we have those winners selected, it's just going to be a little bit, less clear as to what that is. But we can provide some just as OCBC staff, but we're obviously not be able to get in mind the collaborative on what they thought were the strongest projects.
And then I just received
JJ's question, I see that.
Yeah, I answered that, but then I also received another private question. For those who are not selected, will they receive communication? Yes. I've drafted something that will go out to the folks who will not be selected when the time comes. There's like a draft email, so they will receive communication.
Any others? We have 1 minute left. Seeing or hearing none. I think there were some extra slides. If we have time, just moving forward, we will just give you updates on round 1. I think just verbally, like 12 of the 14 have been contracted. We're working really close with the last 2 to get them contracted. Some advanced pay has gone out for some of the projects to move forward, and a few of the projects have already kind of billed invoices. So things are moving along there, and in 2 months' time, we'll give you more of an update on ensuring that these projects that were selected by OCBC staff and by you, the collaborative, are on time and on budget. So I think with that, Maria, anything to close?
Yeah, I do see another question in the chat. Yes, you all will always receive a recap email. Typically, it goes out by next Tuesday or Wednesday. However, because of the voting poll closing on Tuesday, I will send a recap email within the next 24 hours. You'll have access to all of the materials again and a recap of what was discussed today, and the link to the voting poll. And with that, Please take a look at Natalie's slides when you all have an opportunity if you're interested. And I adjourn this meeting at 10 a.m.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.